longtime champions for women's issues. In 2019, they launched Women Over 70, Aging Reimagined, to shatter the myth that women become irrelevant as they age, and to encourage women to age with courage, compassion, and contribution. Together, we are all changing the conversation about women and aging, and I would add here, we're changing the conversation about aging at large for everyone. Their weekly podcast features women ages 70 to 100 whose stories inspire women of all ages. Women Over 70 has become a flourishing venture that includes monthly programming, speaking to organizations and groups, and a thriving Facebook community, an Aging Reimagined Circle, which is a sustaining membership. To learn more, please visit Women Over 70, www.womenover70.com to learn more. And I will add, there is a table in the back of the room with various literature, cards, handbills, yes, thank you, if you want to grab some of that on your way out. Okay, so are we ready? Let me. Can you hear me?
Yep, keep talking.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
I'm just going to make this work from here. Okay. Okay. Can you tell us a little bit more? Why did you create Women Over 70 Aging Reimagined? What is its purpose?
First of all, Lydia, thank you and the whole committee and all of the seniors in the room for having us here. We really do appreciate it. And I love telling this story. Because I met Catherine when I was going for my Master of Arts in Applied Professional Studies degree at DePaul University, and she was my faculty mentor. And that was a very lucky thing for me. So after I was studying entrepreneurial creativity and innovation. After graduation, we continued to meet. And if any of you know Catherine, you know you think you're special and you're the only one that's invited to do that with her, but she does it with everybody. And so I had been thinking about creating a podcast. My son was in new media and he had several podcasts, and I had been attending conferences, and I got the idea of wanting to interview 70 women over 70. I was 76 at the time. I was interested in what aging was going to look like as I moved forward, and so I brought up the idea to her one night at dinner, and she said,
"Count me in."
She was ready to reduce her activities at DePaul, and she was nearing 70, and she loved the idea of women telling stories so that she could learn. She was studying this to learn how women live their lives. And so we said, okay, we're going to try and do this. And we did. And so 230 interviews later, a weekly podcast, almost 220,000 downloads, and Women Over 70 Women Over 70 Aging Reimagined is going strong. We are sharing the stories of vital, vibrant women. Definitely is something that others want to listen to. And these women tell the stories of aging unbound and boundless possibilities. And so we're thrilled that we have been able to do this together.
No, that was perfect. Thank you.
Can you explore with us today, how does the mission of Women Over 70 connect with the theme of Older Americans Month and celebrating seniors aging unbound?
Well, I think we have a shared message for sure. Yeah, I think we're asking the same kinds of questions. What would it look like if aging were unbound by age? And we still live in an ageist society. We all know that. But what would it look like to be unbound by societal norms and prejudicial language and attitudes? And what would it feel like to be unbound by our own reluctance to belong to the tribe of older Americans? So Women Over 70, as Lydia said, is really here to shatter the myths that we are irrelevant or worse, and that we are needing to change the conversation about aging we want to say that while Gail and I focus on women, that the stories and the lessons from women we think are also very relevant to men as well. So please listen.
In a few moments, we're going to share some stories with you, which will really show you how it is that Women Over 70 is aligned with this mission of Aging Unbound.
And please, what have you learned from your podcast guests about boundless possibilities that come with aging? We would love to hear some lived experience and some examples.
Well, we'll get to that, but you asked the question that answers why is it that Catherine and I, 4 full years later, are still so excited about this podcast and the work we do. And that's because they let us know that it's boundless possibilities that keep them engaged and living on into 100 plus, and keeps them inspired and keeps our listeners so inspired by what it is that they're saying. The guests that we interview, it seems that it's in their DNA, that it's their vibrant, vital persistence that keeps them going. And it puts opportunities in their path. When you're living that kind of a life, it puts opportunities in your path. And because you are who you are, and you are that way, you continuously say yes. Why is Lydia still chairing this committee for 7 years? And others of you in the room can say the same thing. So approximately 1 year after we started the podcast, we realized that it wasn't enough to allow people to just search for the guests they wanted to listen to by their names. We were having so many by that time that we knew that we had to separate them into categories. And so we settled on 9 categories, which are still the categories that we use. And they are advocates, enhancing career, expressive arts, health and wellness, play, reinvention, social activism, social service, and spirituality and healing.
So I would like to note that we've interviewed a dozen women here from Oak Park, and I know there are hundreds more. So we would love to hear from you if you're interested in being a guest. Now everyone knows Margaret Burke. Where are you, Margaret? Here. Okay. So Margaret was an advocate on our series, Advocates for Women Aging, and she demonstrates the power of stories better than anyone. And not surprisingly, many of our guests fall in that category of social activism, social service. You may know some of them: Ann White, Nora Natoff, Pam Tate, Pauline Kaufman, and of course our own Lydia Manning, who was also an advocate for women aging. You know, we're always happy to hear someone's story that emphasizes play. And we could use more of those stories, actually. And so there's Jane Llewellyn, who travels the world, and there's Chris Howery, who brings play and intuition to all of her creative endeavors. And so we just want to share a little bit more about 4 women from Oak Park.
And I'd like to start with someone else who's in the room today. Please raise your hand. Dr. Susan Stahl. Susan is episode 161, if you want to run off and listen to her. And of course, she is in the category of social activism. In addition to that category, she appears in our Advocates series. And who are advocates? Advocates are women who are experts in subject matter that appeals to other women, aging women. And so we invited her to be an advocate. And many of you may know that Dr. Stahl is a sociologist. In 1985, she designed and taught a college course that was entitled Gender and the Built Environment, Redesigning the American Dream. Her continued scholarship and activism have expanded to innovations in housing, And that's really an important area for seniors in all ways. And her activism centers on affordability, design, and the capacity for community building. She highlights the missing middle, those who aren't rich and those who aren't poor, and whose housing needs tend to be ignored. On the podcast, Susan describes age-friendly living options, such as co-housing, cooperative housing, shared housing, and accessory dwelling units. Susan is a great example of boundless opportunities, for sure.
Thank you, Susan. We have another powerful example of that, and that's Terry Powell. I'm sure many of you know Terry. On our website, we describe Terry as a polymath for the social good. She represents the social service category because, as she says, my legacy is to leave things a little better than when I started. Well, indeed, she does. So Terry has been a grassroots organizer her adult life. She's worked in arts, business, education, healthcare, and you may know her as Oak Park's former village clerk, which she served for 7-8 years. And now she's active in many groups and organizations. I can't keep track of them all. But I know her through her work as co-leader of End of Life Options Coalition, which is part of Compassion and Choices. Boundless energy.
A third Oak Parker guest, who is not here with us today, is Joyce Clouden Porter. She's episode 225, and she's in the category of expressive arts. Joyce is 73. She's acted in 60 films, taught college for 30 years, and recently became a published nonfiction author. She's also won several awards for the film Stairs, and she continues to act as roles become available. Joyce's late husband, Paul, caused her to learn many things in relation to his multiple illnesses. Being the creative that she is, and recognizing how she might help others, she wrote Mastering Senior Life, Thriving and Surviving. It's a testament to her resilience and caretaking. In the book, she offers tips on how to enjoy your senior years to the fullest and learn ways to protect your family. Joyce also shares important information relative to Medicare, insurance, mobility devices, and so much more. Joyce's creative imagination is what enables her to think outside ordinary convention and find new ways of coping. She says, make the most of what you can do while you can do it.
And finally, it's my pleasure to introduce my guest today, Jill Stewart. Here you are. Jill is a wonderful example of how someone can use their professional expertise to promote social causes. She applies her expertise in communications, in particular public relations and professional writing. She's supported causes such as the AIDS epidemic, end-of-life options, and most recently, she and her husband, Dave, teamed up to produce a series, a 3-part series, called Hidden History, Understanding the Origins of Racial Inequality. It's a fabulous, very informative series. She is an alum, along with Gail, from the MAPS program at DePaul, and I was fortunate to also be her faculty mentor. So Jill teaches communications, mainly professional writing and public relations, in our MAPS program, as well as in the College of Communication. And even when she's teaching, she has a cause, and that is, as she says, to level the playing field in career advancement for both older and younger students. Now, Jill also contributes very generously her talents to our efforts. She's one of our strongest supporters, and we love her and appreciate you. So I'm sure you can tell that these brief profiles of women over 70 don't fit neatly into just one category, of course. Their lives are wonderfully complex and diverse, and Gail and I think that they are inspiring role models for what aging unbound looks like.
Thank you. In all of the hours and all of the guests that you've chatted and talked with, what are some of the common themes that emerge from these interviews?
Yeah, that's a challenging question, really, because 230 women so far, each story is unique, and yet we have been able to cull out a lot of themes. We're going to just focus on 5 of them briefly. So there's no one size fits all in the aging process, as you know. But well, foremost, they're curious. Every single guest, all 230 of them so far, is inquisitive about life in the fullest possible sense. Everyone's always learning, so she can gain broader perspectives, acquire a new skill, expand in what she knows and can do, ways she can contribute. You know, Gail and I thought, well, purpose really ought to be one of the themes, because that is talked about so much in the media and among all of us as well. And we do hear that about purpose, and it is important. But we actually think that curiosity is the underlying message from our women, our guests. And that is to just embrace curiosity and live creatively on purpose.
Yes, there are really so many themes that come up when you're talking to all these women. We thought we'd stay with onomatopoeia, all these C's. So, not only are they curious, they amaze us by their creativity. It's simply in how they live their lives. And as life becomes more complex, creativity serves them well, and it offers endless possibilities for a life unbound. So many of our guests, Judy Schindler, Catherine Grody, Sarah Paretsky, Martha Hansen, Sarah Levinson, express themselves through creative endeavors. Photography, comedy, acting, art, dance, writing. And by adopting creative thinking, they find new perspectives on everyday challenges. It serves them well.
So a third theme is they're courageous. They're bold. They're daring. They live out loud in the ways they dress and how they speak and how they act the way they really want to. They take on challenging causes and problems. They dare to break some rules, societal rules. They put themselves first without apology. They find ways to deal with life transitions, especially loss, and have the courage to reshape their lives in meaningful ways. We just offered a program called Becoming a Widow, a journey from 2 to 1. And we featured the book written by one of our guests, Kim Beth Worley Judge, and we had a panel of women who experienced becoming a widow. Gail was on that panel. And they talked about the journey to become, and then he died, what that journey was like, and then what it's like to live as one when you've been used to living for such a long time with someone else. Others are breaking the mold. Just a couple that come to mind. Annie Korsen is a actress that you may have remembered her from Seinfeld. She was the wife of the neighbor of the parents. And she, at age 83, she said, I need a larger audience. I want to be seen. I want people to know me. So she's a TikTok sensation. She has 500,000 followers. And she tells stories about what it's like to be an aging woman and how she lives. And that she has a younger following. They love her. The young people love her. So, and just one more. Diane Gilman, is that her name? She was a clothing designer and very well known, and reached middle age and said, why can't I find a pair of jeans to fit? Right? And so she now is designing and manufacturing jeans for middle age and beyond. And I am here to tell you, I should have warned them, because for the first time in 20 years, I have 2 pair of jeans that I can wear, thanks to Diane.
With appropriate pockets.
And with appropriate pockets. And appropriate enough flair, yeah.
Our fourth C is that they are contributors. Their commonality is that they are contributors. And we have another guest here who's not from Oak Park, but she can raise her hand, Marcia Ross. And she's my guest today. And Marcia has been working for the volunteering for the Chicago Architectural Foundation for many years now. And she keeps getting in deeper and deeper and deeper, taking another, being willing to take on another tour, getting on committees, serving deeply on boards and all. And so she is just a perfect example of someone who is a contributor, because our guests remain actively engaged. They're natural leaders. Sometimes they're followers when they have to be. Some still work for pay, and others, like Marcia, volunteer their time for causes that make a difference to humanity: the environment, children, education, transportation. They fight for justice and equality. The women who started the Janes before Roe versus Wade was passed jumped into action again when it was repealed, and we were fortunate enough to interview several of the Janes and to have a special program around them.
Okay, and there's a fifth category, and that is they are in community. Our women over 70 guests really do exemplify that relationships matter a lot. And being in relation with others, with family, with friends, with neighbors, with pets, other cultures. And then Jim mentioned the Harvard study, and the book I just finished reading, The Good Life, Lessons from the World's Longest Scientific Study of Happiness, came out in 2023. And the number one key to happiness, as Jim already said, we're social beings. It's positive relationships. And I'm so happy that that is up higher than exercise.
Me too. Speaking of being connected and getting involved and engaged, how would one get involved with Women Over 70 and the podcast? Can you tell us?
I'll be happy to. I'm so glad you asked that question. There are so many ways to get involved. And, you know, our goal is to bring as many women into community as possible, into an intergenerational community, because younger women learn from older women and vice versa. And so, how can you get in touch with us? Well, you can contact us at info@womenover70.com. You can pick up one of our cards. We have them at our table. And you can send us referrals. If you yourself do not want to be a guest, think of someone over 70 that you know would make a terrific guest and send them to us. That's really how we find the women that we interview. You can listen and subscribe to our podcast. We need people to review our podcasts and tell the world how wonderful you think we are. And they are. The guests, of course, the guests. And ask us to speak to your company or organization. We do a lot of speaking, Catherine and I, and we love to do that and spread the word and help change the conversation about women aging. You can join our Aging Reimagined Circle, which is our sustaining membership fund. And if you're a woman author, ask how your books can be featured in the Books by Women section on our website. Finally, Zoom in and participate with us on our monthly first Tuesday mornings programming. And we have what we call deep talk forums, we have candid conversations. Anybody, any woman of any age is welcome to attend. Sorry, Jim, we might make special dispensation for you. And of course, you can learn more by visiting our website, womenover70.com. When you become involved with us, you will experience what is meant by aging unbound.
I already recruited 2 women to be guests, so I know there are many more here. Come talk with us. And on the table in the back there is information about 2 programs that we have coming up. Again, they're on Zoom. May 24th is Writing Haiku, which is about how do you capture those fleeting moments or those high moments in life in very few words. And another one is June 6th, which is a Deep Talk Forum, and that is going to be about informal caregivers' perspectives on living with Alzheimer's. So that is our Sally Duplantier from California has done a good bit of research around that, and she'll have a lot to offer. So thank you so much for having us.
Thank you both for the work that you do and for being here. At this point,